Good afternoon, Andrea Rowe. Thanks for joining us here at Yellow Shelf.
Hi, Joe. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, not as thrilled as I am because you are an esteemed children's book author, an early reader author. And so I feel incredibly privileged that you've said yes to Yellow Shelf. You're sharing about one of your many books, but the book today we're going to talk about is In the Rock Pools. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm really excited always to be talking about children's books, but In the Rock Pool was a lovely little early reading text that came out at the end of last year, and this year it's had a wonderful run. It is what's called an early concept book. So, In the Rock Pool is about introducing young readers, those 0 to 3-year-old readers with their grown-ups, about the joys of marine environment and who lives in the rock pool. And it's fairly luscious and gorgeous. And
Yeah,
I must say, a picture book is nothing without your talented illustrator. And this
I
is the
know.
amazing Hannah Sommerville, who's
Yeah.
incredible. But it's also a book about early concepts. And in this instance, it's counting.
Yes.
So I'm always a fan of sort of learning or taking some knowledge when you read, and you're never too young or too old to do that. So it's been great to not only see the book come out, but it's was notable as a picture book of the year with the Children's Book Council of Australia, and had a fairly lovely run as a result of that as well.
Yeah. You a lovely run. You're a fellow of May Gibbs.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
oh, yes, that's right. Yes, in all of this year, I also had a May Gibbs Children's Literature Fellowship, which basically meant that I had a month in which I was gifted an apartment in Adelaide, in Australia, to write in. May Gibbs was an esteemed author and illustrator in Australia, much beloved, with Snugglepot and Cuddle Pie, and the May Gibbs Fellowship gives Australian authors and illustrators that time and space to write. So I had a month away from family life and
Wow.
responsibilities, and managed to write 10 other picture books in that time, and 5 are about to head off to publishing houses. So that's really great. And yeah, and while that happened, then I found out as well that In the Rock Pool was chosen by the Australian government to represent this year's Australian picture books at the Bologna Children's Book Fair. So it's
Wow.
a wonderful thing to know the cover of our book was on beautiful banners in Bologna, and that it was showing other people around the world what the face of Australian picture books are like,
Yeah.
and the colour and vibrancy of our environment as well, which I was really
Yes.
proud of. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, and look, I'm like a visual lover, so the book is stunning. It inspires nature and creatures and love of outdoors. And
And,
yeah, congratulations on your international success at Bologna. That's
thanks.
amazing. Tell
And
us. Oh, sorry, keep going.
And that is the power really of a picture book, because
Yeah,
you've got that sort of emotional power of the text, or that soft sort of reinforcement in the text. And then you've got that visual impact of
yeah.
images. And if you take a book like In the Rock Pool, it's glittery and shiny and colourful, and it's helping a child get early concepts of what a marine environment is like as well. So I love that too.
Yeah, yeah. And Andrea, if someone's watching and they've not heard of Andrea before, I would
Mm.
love you to share, what inspired you to start writing and anything about your background that we need to know about you.
Sure. Well, I was always an outdoors kid. We were always camping, hiking, canoeing, all those sorts of things. And a lot of the early books that I reached for as a kid involved characters in the outdoors. So I think it's in my DNA to write stories set in wild places or beautiful nature, and to actually have kids have a sense of agency in the outdoors, getting up to kind of exploring, making mistakes, stumbling, getting back up again, and kind of being at large in the outdoors, which I think is a part of childhood as well. We want children to have that enormous opportunity that comes with being free in the outdoors and learning about their bodies and their spaces and things like that too. So I'm a big fan for writing about wild kids and wild places. And I also love writing about tricky emotions, the high stuff and the low stuff,
Yeah.
because we live in the world through our hearts, and I'm really interested in kids sort of seeing themselves on the page and being able to sort of relate without it being too didactic, being able to go, oh, that feels a bit like me, or
Yeah.
that was my experience last week. So I tend to write a lot of nostalgic stories that often parents and grandparents can relate to in terms of those transition moments as well. And I'm a sucker for lyrical text. So I love a bit of alliteration.
Yeah.
I'm all for onomatopoeia.
Yes.
And I love playing around with how words can kind of, sort of skip with each other across the page so that when they're going through that read aloud process with picture books, kids can really enjoy the words as they flow as well. And I think for me, it's with great pride then that three of the books I've written have all done enormously well. The educators love them, so it sort of means that they're kind of relating to that sort of lyricism and that text example as well. But I guess my main thing is if I can leave someone when they've finished a book and thought, I really enjoyed that, I want to read it again.
Yes.
That's my greatest joy, to know that I've written a story that someone wants to come back to or share on as well.
Yeah. And look, what I love about your books is all of them really inspire curiosity and connection, like you're explaining. It's beautiful.
You're right. Curiosity is so important. And, so many books out there really do feed that in children. And the thing about a picture book is it's just part of that curiosity for a child. It's kind of in the toolbox now so that they can go back to if they want to
Yeah.
have a look at different components, the images or the text. But also it might actually open a door for them to actually discover a passion as well, which
Yeah.
is really cool. And
So
because I'm very fortunate to work with Hannah Sommerville on so many books now.
yeah.
She draws the environment so beautifully as well. And I kind of like to think hand in hand we're maybe influencing
Yeah.
some little naturalists out there. And in the rock pool is part of a series.
Yeah.
It was the first of a series called the Little World series. And as a matter of fact, we've just signed our third contract today in that series. And it's all about, wild-eyed wonder for
Yeah.
little kids in nature. And so I'm really excited
That
to
is
keep
very
sharing those
exciting.
stories.
Very exciting. And I'm going to cheekily ask when the books come out, would you come back and share them with Yellow Shelf?
I absolutely would love to. Any chance to talk about children's books and how grown-ups can enjoy them just as much
Yeah.
and put them into the hands of little kids, but also take them into their own hearts is a great thing too.
Yeah. And like I was saying to you before we hit record, I get hundreds of messages about children's books and, you know, I'm a grandparent and I buy books. And so it's so good. I know many of our audience either buy books or are inspired to pass on books. So I would love to have you back, Andrea.
Definitely love to. And I think the thing is, but that even as grown-ups, when we're still buying books for little people, books change, some of the
Yeah.
themes and the way we present things and also how children relate to the world change as well. So, I'm also a casual bookseller in a little
Yeah.
bookstore, and I get a lot of grandparents coming in looking for classics. And
Yeah.
I'll often say to them, the classics are great, but there are contemporary classics that your
Yeah.
young person may relate to just as well, if
Yeah.
not better, because the worlds have changed,
Of
that
course.
they live in. So I'm always really interested in making sure they know about contemporary
Yeah.
and emerging classics too.
Absolutely. And finally, what's the best way to connect with you? Your website, your socials, how do we get in contact with Andrea or if you're curious about the book series?
Sure, I'm on a website, andrearowe.com.au, and there it will take you to all of my socials. I'm pretty active on Instagram. I live by the beach. There's lots of beach photos and lots of nature photos because that's my jam.
Yeah.
And you can find me pretty active on all of the socials. And I share a lot of articles and cheerleading about Australian children's literature as well, because I'm really passionate about our stories and sharing them out with the world too.
Ah, awesome. Well, it's been great to have you on Yellow Shelf to share the passion. I'm sure we'll talk again next year. I'll
Love to,
put I'll
Joe.
put all your connections in the show notes to make it easy for everybody to connect. Andrea, all the best.
Terrific. Thanks, Joe. Lovely to chat.
Cheers.